Hey guys, so I'm here today to talk about sewing the sleeves onto the Biltmore blanket cardigan. So this is kind of an afterthought video. This cardigan came out in March of 2025 and now it is August. So my sweater is very well loved, we'll say. It has been worn and washed and dried and used as a blanket by the cat, the dog, the baby. So this is what it looks like. This is what remake yarn looks like when it has been put through the ringer. So it's a little fuzzy, and probably kind of stretched out at this point. But anyway, hopefully it suffices for what we need it to do right now. So the basic part of the cardigan, I think, it's pretty straightforward, but I've gotten some questions on how do you sew the sleeves in. So you, the construction of the cardigan, right, you're going from the bottom up and you're working all in one piece. So you're going from the hem, you get to the underarms, and then you split, right? So up until here, it's all been in not the round because it's a cardigan, but it's all been in one piece, so you have no seams. So once you get to here, now you're breaking. So you do this front, and then you've got the center for the back, and then you have the other side. So we're not gonna go over there because this thing is huge and I only have just so much space, the camera. Now, to finish, step one would be, so you've done this front, and then you're doing the back, right? So the first thing you have to do is make it wearable. So you need to have it on your shoulder. So you need to close the seam up so it can sit on your shoulder. So you close this shoulder seam, and in closing this, now you've created an armhole. Now it makes this here into a circular opening, right? So now you have your sleeve, right? And your sleeve is crocheted flat. So you've just given yourself a circular opening that you now need to fit this flat sleeve into. And this flat sleeve is, if it's not sewn in, it's, twice this long, right? So it is a little bit awkward to do. I will admit to that. Usually when you're sewing in sleeves, if you're either doing it fully in the round or you're doing it in pieces, in which case you would not have this part sewn together already, and you would kind of have the whole thing opened up and flattened out and sew it all flat and then fold it in half and do the side seam. So in this case, now you gotta take the flat piece and sew it to the circular. So all you gotta do is take this flat piece and fold it in half. Okay, so you're just gonna fold it back on itself and put the seam down here. Now use pins, go free form, whatever you wanna do, but somehow mark this bottom of the underarm here, because that is where you want this seam to end up. You don't want it to be sliding up in front of your work, so you're gonna be able to see it on the front of your thing. I mean, if it needs to slide up somewhere, make sure it's on the back, but hopefully this seam is under your armpit. So line it up here, start sewing. I actually like to sew from the right side of my work so I can kind of see what it's gonna look like while it's being worn. That's preference. I kind of got into that habit with knitting, and I do it with the crochet too. You can sew it from either side, sew it from the right side, the wrong side. Like I said, I keep my right side facing me. But so you're gonna stitch up and around until you get back to that underarm, and then sew the seam together. So you've taken the flat piece and you've fitted it around into that circular armhole opening. And that's really all there is to it. Aside from being awkward, it's the concept is simple. It's maybe awkward to execute if you've never come into this situation before, because like I said, it's not as common to do it this way. Usually it's either all circular or all flat. This is kind of a mashup of the two, where you've got the bottom already being in one piece and now you're taking flat and putting it into circular. Once you have them laid down next to each other though, it should make a little bit more sense, even if it's not doesn't feel as natural to do. But that's really all, that's all it is. Oh, this is sliding out of the thing. So yeah, so circular, so seam, circular opening, take your piece, lay it, wrap it around, so it also creates a circle, and then sew this together. If that flat piece being sewn to the circular opening is really throwing you, the other thing that you could do is to take that flat piece and actually sew this seam first and then take the circle and fit it to the circle. So you're taking a circular sleeve and fitting it to a circular opening, if that's easier to wrap your brain around. It's whichever way you want to do it. But essentially you're just taking the stitches of the sleeve and sewing it to the rows of the body. And then you're done. And you do it on the other side. And then you put the edging on and you can wear it, and hopefully you wear it as much as I do and it starts to fuzz. But I love this yarn. I have to say it did hold up pretty good. Yeah, and I'm gonna make this in a knit version. I knit a lot slower than I crochet, but so I'm like down here in the body somewhere. But when I do get to the point of sewing it together, I will stop and show how I'm putting the sleeve to the body. It may not be for a month, but I'll put that together. So it's, even though it's knit and not crocheted, it's still the same concept of how you would attach the two things together. It's still going to be stitches to rows. But hopefully for now, now that you can kind of see this being laid out and it's not just words on a page, hopefully that visual helps a little bit. And if not, feel free to send more emails and I will try and help as best as I can. Yeah, so that's it. Let me know. Okay, see you guys later. Bye.